has something to say about love that we all need to know. As I look at the book of Acts from the 13th chapter throughout the rest of the letter, I saw Paul on a mission, on a journey, taking the gospel to the Gentiles, going first to synagogues and then to the Gentiles. Paul traveled to different cities. He proclaimed Jesus Christ and his resurrection. As his mission, he wanted to make the gospel plain, to make it understandable to those who were outside of Jewish circles. And the reason why Paul wanted to do this was because he had a profound love for Jesus Christ. And as I looked at his mission, I discovered that his mission was really to excel in love. To excel in love. And as you think about your relationships today, your sphere of influence, if we were to put a gauge on ourselves to check our love level, I'm sure that we can use more love. We can never get to the place where we say we don't need any more love, because love is one of those things that you can't exhaust. We need love in every aspect of our daily life, because oftentimes we meet people that are rather unlovely. And so we need love to always operate in our life. And Paul is going to tell us how essential love is to the Christian. In Paul's letter to the Corinthians in the 13th chapter, he says in verse 1, "If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am become sounding brass, or a clanging cymbal. Gift of prophecy, and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And if I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and if I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profited me nothing. Love suffereth long, and is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemingly, seeketh not its own, is not provoked, taketh no account of evil, rejoiceth not in unrighteousness, but rejoiceth with the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things." Paul gives an exposition on the whole topic of love. He uses in the King James the word charity. But in the Greek, it's the word that we've come to know as agape. And agape love is unselfish. It's loyal. And it's a benevolent concern for the well-being of another. Paul says this love is the most excellent way. Mind you, he's writing to a church that had got caught up with the spiritual gifts. This church was bursting at the seams with talent and special abilities. There were many people that were gifted, spiritually as well as talent that they were born with. But yet Paul saw that in the church, there were many things that were being done that were not motivated by love. And anything that we do, and anything that we say that is not motivated by love does not count. Even in the situations where we say the right thing, if it's not motivated by love, it doesn't count. Even if the act is an act that is needed, if we do it just so that other people could see us, it's not really motivated by love, and it doesn't count. And that's what Paul is going to argue here, that if we want to understand the better way, don't be sidetracked with your abilities. Don't be sidetracked by your talents. Because there are a lot of people that are talented and that are gifted and that know a whole lot that God cannot use. God chooses to use people that are humble. God chooses to use people that are willing to make the sacrifice that's needed for others. So Paul says, if I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. Paul is using hyperbole here, and he says, if I could speak all languages and even the language that is spoken by angels in heaven, if I have not love, all I am is a noisy gong. All I am is a clanging cymbal. All I am is making a whole lot of noise. And if I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains but have not love, I am nothing. So he says here, if I have all of the prophecies down pat, and if I have all of the knowledge that one could attain, if I have all faith to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. It's not all about what talents you have or who you are or what you have in the bank. If you don't have love, it doesn't count. He says, if I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and if I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profited me nothing. Paul says, if I take all of my goods and give it to the poor, the most noble thing that you could do, making sacrifices for others, feeding them, clothing them. He says, even if you go to the extreme of being a martyr and you give your body to be burned in the place of another person, but have not love, it profited nothing. So, Paul says, if you think about all of the things that people try to attain, and you get it, and you don't have love, it doesn't count. It doesn't count. Now, he says in verse 4, love suffereth long, and is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemingly, seeketh not its own, is not provoked, taketh not account of evil, rejoiceth not in unrighteousness, but rejoiceth with the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endure all things. So Paul says here that love suffers long. We need the kind of love that's able to suffer long. You can't choose to love for a little while. You can't choose to love just a little bit. Well, if the person does this, then I will no longer love them. Paul says, love suffereth long. Love is kind. Love envieth not. It's not jealous. It's not puffed up. You don't have to say how much you love the person. It ought to be able to be seen. It ought to be able to be demonstrated. Words mean very little if the action is not backing it up. You could say, I love you until you're blue in the face, but unless you do something, that love doesn't mean a thing. It has to be demonstrated. And so Paul says the first way that love is demonstrated is that it suffers long. It's patient. And being in relationships, we have to be patient with one another. We have to suffer long. And I realize as a preacher, I will get myself in trouble at times. And I will and may say the wrong thing in the wrong place. At times, I will say some things that may offend people. You will do it too. But love suffereth long. Love doesn't write people off because all of a sudden they do something that you don't like. Because love is kind. Love envieth not. It's not jealous. Love wants to see the very best happening in the lives of others. Love rejoices when good things happen. Love expresses itself in a way where it's not unseemingly. It behaves itself. It seeks not its own. Most of the times we love people because they can do something for us. But love seeketh not its own. Love loves because it's based on being loved first. Christ loves us first, therefore we love. We don't love and we don't surround ourselves with people who are only going to do stuff for us. That's self-seeking. Your friends are the ones who do for you. You don't have people in your life who you do for expecting nothing in return. That's a life where you're self-seeking. Paul says that's not love. He says love is not easily provoked. It taketh not account of evil. In other words, love doesn't cause you and I to make a list of what the other person has done wrong. And mind you, you may not have one of those written down, but all you got to do to reveal your list is get into a disagreement. Well, I remember when you said, when you did. Love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. Love always seeks to do what's best for the other person. It rejoices in righteousness, not in unrighteousness. It rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endures all things. This is the most excellent way of love. Do you know there is no greater gift than love? In everything that Paul did, every city he went into to preach, every place he went to, he was motivated by love. Love is the ultimate spiritual gift. But everybody today wants tongues and want some type of talent where they would be seen by many. But love isn't puffed up. It doesn't brag. It doesn't boast. It's not easily provoked. It doesn't rejoice in unrighteousness, but it loves truth. It rejoices when good things happen for other people. It bears all things. It believes all things. It hopes all things. It endures all things. What kind of love do you have? Do you have this kind of love that rejoices with the truth, that bears all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things? There was a woman who had come down with a very severe case of cancer. And there was no hope. There was no hope. And her husband walked out on her. And he never came back. And for the next several months, she spent there in the hospital with only her daughter and only some of her closest neighbors. But her husband walked out. That is not love. Love stick with you when the going gets tough. Love make plenty sacrifices. Love trust the other person. There's an overwhelming amount of trust that's involved with love. You have to trust. And where there is no trust, there is no love. Some people have to check in all during the day. They have to say where they are, what they're doing, what time they're going to be home. Love, trust. Sometimes when trust is betrayed, then accountability is needed. When you hurt the person and when there is a history of infidelity or something on that line, it makes people feel that they can't trust. So in certain situations, it's understandable that you have to check in. But love expresses an overwhelming amount of trust. Some people can't trust the other person when they can't see them. They can only trust them when their eyes are on them. And that's really bad. You can't go nowhere. Once you're home, you're home. There's no leaving out. Once you're home, you're home. You need to, if there is no history there, be able to trust. It believes all things. It believes the best is yet to come. It hopes all things. It endures all things. And I believe since the Browns have had their bout with sickness, they have gotten closer to one another. Love endures all things. Love never faileth, he said in verse 8. But whether there are prophecies, they will be done away with. Whether there be tongues, they will cease. Whether there be knowledge, it will be done away with. Paul says those things that we want the most are only temporary. Prophecies, knowledge, tongues, they're all going to be done away with. But the thing that will remain is love. Because God is love. And the reason why we ought to love is because we have been loved by God. You can't be loved by God and yet hate your brother. And yet hate your sister. Love covers a multitude of sins. Love always seeks the best, believes the best. Love doesn't always question a person's motive. You see, some people, because you have a hard time with experiencing love, when people do an act of love towards you, you don't know how to handle it. You don't feel that you're worthy of it. Because your love level is low. You expect that when people do things that are good for you and beneficial to you, that there must be a hidden motive. And the person is doing it simply because they love you. But love ought to be motivated by not just guessing at what is best for the other person, but first of all, finding out what's best for the other person. So love never faileth. But the gifts that we all want, what we all espouse to, Paul says they will be done away with. And then he says in verse 11, when I was a child, I spake as a child. I felt like a child. I thought as a child. Now that I am become a man, I have put away childish things. There's some childish ways that we have to put away in order to experience and to give love. Love is something that we receive, but yet we give it away. What can I do for others? That's love. How can I make the other person's life better? How can I enrich the other person? What can I do? What can I say? Is my presence needed? Love is always motivated by a spirit of sacrifice. Paul says in verse 12, for now we see in the mirror, a mirror that's darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know fully, even as also I was fully known. Paul says, with love, you don't have to hide. What happens is, we don't experience real love because we hide our true selves. The image that we project is what we want others to believe that's true in our life. We project an image because we don't want people to know and discover the real us. And you can't really experience love without revealing your true self. And some of us hide our true selves because we don't want to be hurt. You see, we've been down that road before. And so we hide our true feelings. We just go along, afraid that if we voice our opinion or our true selves, we would be rejected. But love ought to allow enough room where people could be who they are without putting on a facade. Some people do this with material things. A car could hide the true self. So a person that drives a Jag or drives a Mercedes, we look at it, we say, well, this person is successful just because they own an expensive car. But the person, whether they have the money or not, has this fancy car to project an image that they are successful. Well, you may not have a Mercedes, you might not have a Jag. But there are other things that we use to project an image. And the truth be told, we're living on plastic. And you can't take off a day's work because if you do, you get behind in your bills. The reality is, we project an image that we're there, but we're not. And then with our personal relationships, we've been hurt in the past and we can't really express who we are. We can't really be who we really are, and so we hide. We can't express, I was wrong, honey. I blew it. It's my mistake. We can't do it because of our pride. But men, your wives need to know and need to see you expressing your true self. And everybody knows you're not perfect, especially your wife. And everybody ought to know that it's all right to be real. But guess what? If you can't be real at home, how in the world will you be real at church?